Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. I'm Mark, and as always, I'm here with Jenny, and today we've got something really cool to talk about.
Hey Mark, always a pleasure. And yes, today's topic is seriously intriguing. We're diving deep into the world of hardware hacking, specifically focusing on something called the O.MG Cable.
Oh man, the O.MG Cable. Just the name sounds like something out of a spy movie, right? But it's very real, and it's way more than just a cable.
It's one of those things that makes you question every device you own. So Mark, for those who haven't heard of it, what exactly is an O.MG cable?
Okay, so picture this. A regular USB charging cable, the kind you use every day. Looks normal, right? But hidden inside is a tiny implant that creates a Wi-Fi hotspot. That's a whole computer, basically, inside your cable.
Wait, so it's not just charging your phone? What's it actually doing?
Here's the thing about this little guy. It can record every keystroke you type, execute commands on your device, and even give someone a backdoor into your system. And you wouldn't even know, because it looks so not normal.
That's a little terrifying. So it's like a hidden spy in your cable? I mean, how is that even possible?
It's all thanks to some really clever engineering by a security researcher named Mike Grover. This guy managed to fit all this tech into something incredibly small. I was just reading about how he had to get super creative with the components.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? We trust these everyday objects, like charging cables. It's kind of a wake-up call about hardware security.
Exactly. We spend so much time thinking about software vulnerabilities, but the O.MG cable shows us that hardware can be just as risky. Like, imagine plugging this into your computer at a coffee shop.
That's a scary thought. It's like something out of a movie, but it's real life. So, how common are these kinds of hardware attacks?
Well, they're not as widespread as, say, phishing emails. But that's what makes them so insidious. There was this study by Black Hat in 2024. They found that 87% of cybersecurity professionals couldn't even identify the O.MG cable as a threat when mixed with regular cables.
Wow, even the experts had trouble spotting it? That's concerning. It really highlights how far behind we are in terms of hardware security awareness.
Right? And this isn't just some theoretical threat. Remember that case in Belgrade? The bank that got hit with a hardware attack?
Oh yeah, the Belgrade bank breach. That was wild. Attackers used modified USB keyboards, right? Kind of similar to the O.MG cable concept.
Yeah. They planted these keyboards with implants that let them steal data and mess with transactions. They got away with 17 million euros before anyone noticed.
That's a huge amount of money. And it all came down to compromised hardware. It's a good reminder that security needs to be a multi-layered approach.
You know what else is interesting? There's this whole red team community that uses tools like the O.MG cable for ethical hacking.
Red team? What's that all about?
So red teams are basically the good guys who pretend to be the bad guys. They use these tools to test an organization's defenses. Kind of like a fire drill, but for cybersecurity.
That's actually a really smart idea, like proactively finding your own weaknesses before someone else does.
Totally. And it's not just about finding technical flaws. These exercises also test how people react. Like, do employees report suspicious devices? Do they follow security protocols?
It's a bit like a stress test for the whole security system, both the tech and the human element.
There was this one case, Operation Circuit Board. A simulated attack on a military installation. They used O.MG cable-like devices and had access for over 6 months without being detected.
6 months? That's an incredibly long time to be inside a system undetected. And that was a military installation. You'd think they'd have top-notch security.
You'd think so, right? But that's the thing about these hardware attacks. They can be really hard to spot. I read an article, I think by a former government official. It said that this is why countries are now starting to take hardware threats a lot more seriously, especially in cyber warfare.
It makes sense. If you can compromise hardware, you can potentially gain long-term access and control. It's a whole new level of espionage.
And that's where it gets really tricky, ethically speaking. These tools, like the O.MG cable, they're dual use. They can be used for good, like by red teams, but also for malicious stuff.
Right, it's that classic dilemma. How do you regulate something that can be used for both security research and potentially for illegal activities?
Bruce Schneier, the security expert, he said something interesting about this. He said that the O.MG cable isn't just about the tech. It's about how it exploits our trust in everyday objects.
That's a great point. It's not just a technical issue, it's a psychological one. We're so used to trusting our devices that we don't even consider they could be compromised.
And think about the privacy implications. If someone can get into your system through a cable, they could potentially monitor everything you do.
It's a bit like those spy gadgets in movies, but in real life. You know, the kind where they bug a room with a hidden microphone?
Exactly. Except now, the bug could be your phone charger. It is a little unsettling, to say the least.
So where do we go from here? How do we even begin to address these kinds of hardware threats?
Well, one thing is for sure, we need to start paying a lot more attention to hardware security. I was reading about how companies are starting to implement hardware security measures, a lot more than before.
That's good to hear. But what about on a personal level? What can everyday people do to protect themselves?
That's a tough one. Maybe we need to be more careful about where we plug in our devices? Like, maybe avoid using public charging stations, or at least be aware of the risks?
Yeah, maybe it's about being a bit more skeptical of the devices we use. Even the ones that seem harmless, like a charging cable.
And then, you've got these new technologies coming up, like AI being integrated into hardware security. That's going to be interesting.
AI in hardware? How would that even work?
Well, imagine a system that can detect anomalies in hardware, kind of like how antivirus software works for software. So it could potentially flag a device like the O.MG Cable.
That sounds promising, but also kind of like a sci-fi movie, with AI battling it out over our hardware.
Haha, yeah, it does, doesn't it? But hey, that's where we're headed. And then there's the whole quantum computing thing.
Quantum computing, how does that fit into all of this?
Right, so quantum computers, if they become powerful enough, could potentially break a lot of the encryption we use today. So we're going to need hardware that's resistant to those kinds of attacks too.
It's like a constant arms race, isn't it? As technology advances, so do the threats, and then the defenses have to catch up.
Exactly. And it just goes to show that we can't just focus on software anymore. We need a holistic approach, one that looks at both the software and the hardware side of things.
It's a lot to think about, for sure. But it's also fascinating. I mean, who knew a simple charging cable could open up such a complex conversation about security?
Right? It's a reminder that technology is always evolving, and we need to keep up, both in terms of our understanding and our defenses.
Well, Mark, this has been eye-opening, to say the least. Thanks for breaking it all down for us.
Anytime, Jenny. And to our listeners, keep those devices close, and maybe think twice before you plug in that random cable you found in your drawer. Stay safe out there.
Great advice, Mark. Until next time, everyone. Stay curious and keep exploring.